Hey beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. We're continuing the trend. We're going on to another deck building basics video today. We're going to talk about fighters. Now, I am not going to cover really in detail anything to do with full damage builds, because it's the unfortunate opinion of most players lately with the changes to health and armor that fighters should not run full damage. They should transition to bruisers or tanks. Just to clarify, a tank is obviously someone that is pretty much all health and armor, and a bruiser would be someone that is somewhere in the middle, probably running about 80 to 100 damage, or power rather, with the rest into tank. So fighters they're kind of not very popular at the moment, and obviously if you want to build a full damage fighter, you know what to do. You're running power and you're running attack speed, maybe crit bonus. So we're actually going to go through and we're going to look at brawlers first. So one thing that you need to keep in mind when you are playing as a fighter and you intend to build either as a brawler or a tank is that you need cheap cards to get your DPS up as high as possible at the start of the game so that you can farm. So for the most part, I want anyone that's able to do it, I will have 2 Madstone Gems as 5-point cards and a Flash Fire Piston as a 5-point card. That along with my Siphon or my Scythe, whichever one I am running. So that's a 6-point power card, which it's really worth a 5. It's worth about as much as a Madstone, so it's technically 4 5-point cards, effectively. And then from there we build into tank, because we're going to have enough damage to have farmed, and now it's time to start actually tanking in team fights. We're going to need to start building that way. So let's just look at this Grux build. This build is intended for when the enemy team has hard CC, so if it wasn't, I would just replace Thermobond with something else. But we run Blood-Soaked Armor. It's really good for bruisers and tanks. You just activate this, and for the next 6 seconds anyone attacking you will be copying bleed stacks, which is very good on Grux. We then have a 12-point ward. It's pretty much a standard on my builds that I either run a Sage's ward or a Guardian's ward if I'm expecting to build like a bruiser or a tank, just so that I can slot all my health on it. We then have a 9-point Tempered Plate and Tomb Barrier. Both have just 2 2-point guard upgrades, 2 2-point barrier upgrades, and a little bit of extra health. So he's not super tanky. He's running, you know, sort of 90, 96 armor, nearly 100 armor on the basic, and then about about nearly 80, 79 on the ability. So you could actually get rid of this and run a bit more if you wanted, and then I just have my 1 damage card. So you can say what you want. It's an effective bruiser build. Allows you to take a few hits while dishing out the damage. It's got good attack speed. It is a little bit lower on the power side for what I normally run brawlers, but with Grux's ultimate allowing him to do extra damage on people that he's altered, he doesn't need quite as much power, so that's why I have a little bit more attack speed. You can also just run, if you wanted to run less attack speed, just run armor on that. It's a very good build. It's really simple. So the basics are just, you know, Centurion as well is probably a good idea, especially on a tank, definitely on a tank, is to have a few really cheap cards that allow you to raise your DPS to farm. 1 or perhaps 2. If you were to get rid of the Thermobond, you could probably actually slot that into a 9-point damage card instead. And you know, a couple of cheap armor cards, a 12-point ward with all health, and that would be fine, because the brawler is technically, you know, he's you never really know what you're going to cop. You could definitely build 2 different builds, one just to mitigate basic attack damage, one to mitigate ability armor, but you're a lot better off to build this way. That way you can just build health first, because health, if you are trying to build towards the tankier side, it is actually more beneficial that you build health first if you are trying to mitigate both types of damage. If you know that you're only going to be getting hit by basic attacks, then it's probably better option to go for this tempered plate first. If you are just getting smashed by abilities, it's probably better to go for this first. But if you're getting hit by both equally, then definitely go for the health first and then start to build into your armor. It's just going to work out a lot better in the end. So then if we go to look at an actual tank build, it's exactly the same. So this video is not really going to be that long for these basics, because they're really basic. It's the exact same thing. So we're taking the Centurion, we've got hits and offlane build, so we have heal token, health potion. Always have those in your offlane builds. We have a couple of cheap cards here to get damage and attack speed, and on this occasion we actually have a cheap Elder Mage Amulet and a cheap Tuned Barrier. So because we have one of each, this always runs Thermobomb, by the way. This is my tanky build for when they have hard CC. Just to clarify, hard CC is something that stops you in your tracks, like a root or a stun. Soft CC is like a slow. Okay, so Thermobond is always on those builds for the hard CC. So we have our early game damage, and then I have my actual build, which runs both of the tempered plates. It runs the expensive Tune Barrier, and then dependent on whether I'm having much trouble with ability damage, because we've already got 184 basic resistance. We've got, 115 ability resistance. If I'm not having trouble with ability resistance, or there's no like really bursty casters or anything to deal with, I will then put the Amulet of the Veteran on. But then I get the extra health benefit out of it. But if there are, I run the Tune Barrier. So they're really simple building tanks. Just don't overcomplicate things. Make sure that you're getting all your cheap cards on first to deal damage, to be able to farm, because you don't really want to transition to tanky till about 15 minutes in. You want to start building on it then, and don't just delete cards. So let's say that we're starting the game, we have all this on, okay, and then we're going to, let's say the next thing we decide to do is upgrade our health, and then we want to grab a tempered plate. Don't just get rid of the Flash Vibe Pistol and Mass and Gem. Get rid of your health, your healer token, health potion, I said. And then if you're at the stage where you've decided that you're going to get the Amulet of the Veteran and not the tempered plate, don't just get rid of your damage again. Just grab your tempered plate, keep the damage on. Keep it on for as long as possible, and then start to transition to tanky. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So we won't go over damage builds, as I said, they're pretty simple. So we talked about bruises, we talked about tanks. Just once again, just to make sure it's in your head, build damage and attack speed early, cheap cards so that you can farm better, and think about what you are going to be coming up against. Have options in your build for Thermobond. I don't on a lot of my builds. I actually have enough deck slots to build two similar decks, one with Thermobond, one without. So if you don't have all the deck slots, consider having options in there. And I've forgotten what I was about to say. Just remember that if you are only coming up against basic attack damage, it's pretty rare that that's going to happen, because there's going to be casters on the enemy team. But if you find that you are just dealing with basic attacks, it is probably better off that you build basic attack armor first. If you are getting slammed with both constantly, then build health first before you get into each of the individual armors, because just building health will allow you to survive more if you're getting hit by both at the same time. Whereas if you were to build basic attack armor and you're getting hit with abilities at the same time, the abilities are still going to do quite a lot, so you might as well build the health first. And apart from that, you should be fine. Don't overcomplicate things. It's not really that hard to build tanky, it's really simple, but I just thought I'd get this out of the way. So hopefully someone has heard something that helps them out when building decks in the future. If you enjoyed this video in any way, shape or form, please smash the like button, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. If you have any questions whatsoever on anything I spoke about, please do not hesitate to leave them in the comments section. I will get back to you as soon as I can. And subscribe if you're not already, guys. With that said, thank you so much for watching. I love your face, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.